Welcome to Core Concepts. This show has featured over the last year a wide variety of people from various religious disciplines, each coming to tell us what they believe, why they believe it, and what they've been doing about it. In other words, how is it manifesting in their lives? And we feel like that if you want to find out something about some of the religions, what some people are thinking out there, that you can find it best on the Renford Broadcast Network at youtube.com. And I know that you can find virtually anything that you want to find on the internet if you know what to look for. We believe that there are very interesting people, very interesting experiences and belief systems that you wouldn't even know to look for. And that's why we invite you to go and check out the Renford Broadcast Network, the Core Concepts section on the Renford Broadcast Network. My guest today is Madra Little. Now, Madra and I have had some work together, some contact over 13 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And she has, in that period of time, I think, become quite an expert on the crystal skulls.
Yes.
You've traveled with some of the masters with the crystal skulls.
The ancient skulls, yes.
Some of the ancient ones. This is not exclusively her work because she conducts and works from the Ervin Hypnosis Center with a number of different meditations and different services that you provide there, and we'll have you tell us a little bit about that as we go along, okay? Mm-hmm. But we are featuring here today the crystal skulls. Are any of these, and welcome to the show, by the way.
Thank you very much for having me.
And how are any of these the ancient ones? Or,
no, they're not the ancient skulls, but these are what they call contemporary skulls, meaning they've been carved within the last 50 years or so. The ancient skulls are considered to be thousands of years old. Then there are the old skulls that are hundreds of years old. And there's really no way to actually determine that other than the carving itself to find out if there are tool marks on the skulls, and psychically, intuitively, energetically working with the skulls themselves. So this is where the information comes from. Most of the ancient skulls that are out there have been buried and recovered or lost and found, and they have a history with them. The original myth or legend that goes with the crystal skulls is that there were 12 skulls and a master skull, which would be 13 skulls. But we have since, I'm going to say probably in the last 15 years, discovered that there are more than 13 skulls. There are actually 12 tribes, and each tribe has their 13 skulls. So there's a master skull that was actually given to us by our cosmic family that was supposed to herald in this time of consciousness that we are experiencing right now. So this is why they have surfaced in such quantity, contemporary, ancient, and the old skulls in the last 20 years to help us through this cycle that we're moving through right now, because they are tools for enlightenment and transformation and consciousness.
Now, what do you mean by tribes here? I mean, we know, we know
like
the Indian tribes,
right?
And
the Mayans had their skulls. The Indonesian people had their skulls. Micronesia, the Europeans, like China, had their skulls. So they were all over the planet. There were actually 12 cultures of people that were given a master skull, and from that master skull, they were able to carve 12 other skulls to work with that master skull.
Now, did each one of those 12 represent a principle, a law, some secret, or what?
We are finding that they do. Like there is the one, we have an ancient skull coming in next weekend, as a matter of fact, Synergy, the ancient skull, and this particular skull has never been lost, and it is referred to as the skull of joy and laughter. Then you have the Mitchell Hedges skull that's known and referred to as the skull of love. There is one out there about compassion. So they do represent, while they all, from what I've experienced, they all facilitate the same vibrations. Certain ones of them do focus on specific love, joy, laughter, compassion, forgiveness. So they do kind of hold a
That kind of
amplified.
corresponds a little bit with the universal laws in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's interesting that there's 13
Yeah.
as the master. Just like it's interesting, I had with the 12 disciples. Of course, who would the 12 disciples have been without the 13th
Right.
individual? But that's now. Are any of these that you're displaying? Are they? Do they represent? You know what each one of those represent?
Well, actually, about 2 years ago, and this one has just come to me in February of this year, which works with alchemy, and the name is Alchemy, and actually is working with us in the alchemical transformation that each one of us are undergoing at a DNA level right now. So that's what it facilitates for those who sit with that skull or encounter or in any way are in the presence of that skull. But I was told a couple of years ago that the main 5 skulls that I carried just happened to represent the 5 elements.
Water, fire,
Earth, air, water, fire, and spirit.
and spirit.
Yeah, and so upon revealing that to me, because I had just began working with those energies very strongly, and of course they're connected to the earth, of course they're connected to the Native American energies and all, and the elements. When they revealed that to me, they revealed to me which ones were associated with which elements. And it just synchronistically, I was already working with them in that way, not realizing, well, on a conscious level, not realizing exactly what they were assisting with, but they are assisting with the fact that the 5 elements are part of everything we do, you know, and so in working with them, and here you have, here's Earth, this is Lady Gaia,
The green one?
which is actually is a Gaia stone from Mount St. Helens. And this particular
this was a
stone,
Gaia stone from, it's made,
and it's actually made
it's
from
like pure crystals, what it looks like.
It's made from or produced from volcanic ash from Mount St. Helens.
It's your color, Julie.
Of course it is, yeah. With minerals mixed in with it, or metals mixed in with it, and that's how you come up with the color that's such a rich green. But this particular one is said to represent the soul of the earth. Then you have Taurus, who is a quartz crystal skull that he actually is all about.
The bull.
Well, no, this is actually Taurus. Like, right? This is what I thought. But when he first gave me his name, he actually spelled it as Torahs, as the 5 books given to Moses on the mountain.
Oh, the Torah. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And at the
Genesis,
time, I had
Exodus.
never heard anything about it, but that's Hebrew for instruction. Torah is. And so when I
And for those of you who don't know, that's Genesis, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
Yeah, thank you. But he represents water, and so he works with the element of water. Sunny, which is a beautiful smoky citrine skull, one of the nicest ones I've ever seen. She actually represents, she actually spells her name
So pick them up and play with them.
Definitely, they love to be interacted with. As a matter of fact, one of the main messages they gave me in the beginning was, even though they are sacred objects, they intended to be interacted with in order that people would understand their purpose here and be able to eradicate any fears associated with death and dying and our physicalness, I guess. But she represents the fire energy, working with the sun. Then you have a Luna, which is a beautiful amethyst skull that actually represents air. And then you have the little guy over here on the corner. There's another beautiful clear skull, but with a galaxy in the top of his head. And as you work with the skulls, as you work with crystals, you see that they take on form, they take on inclusions, they take on more of a personality with fractures inside. But this is them growing, just like we grow and our body changes. But this one's name is Yeshua, and he actually carries the energy of my main guide, Yeshua, which I have been walking with all of my life. And this was one of the first skulls that came to me when I started doing this work. And as I was struggling with the work itself, because I was, in my opinion, in that time, I was one of the most unlikely candidates to be doing this particular work with the crystal skulls. I had studied everything else and not crystal skulls. And so for them to have come to me and said, you're going to work with us, you're going to teach about us, you're going to heal with us, you're going to help people move into the new age of consciousness, I struggled with that. So in my meditations, when this skull was one of the first ones that came to me, I actually in meditation said, okay, I'm good with this, but I really need a very strong sign that I'm really supposed to be working with these, because I don't have a clue. It was all about remembering.
Mm-hmm.
And the face of Yeshua, or Jesus Christ, actually came through this skull. And the message was, you ask for a sign from the divine, that these are tools that you require for your work at this time. This is your sign. And from that point on, I never questioned any of it.
And Yeshua was the Aramaic or the Hebrew pronunciation of for Jesus.
Yes.
And are they connected? The whole thing to do with crystal skulls, is that connected with a particular religion, or is it even of a religious origin?
No, it's absolutely not. More of, if anything, just the earth energy that which I have a lot of druid energy that comes through them that I've worked with along my journey in working with them. But definitely that getting back to the earth, the connection with the earth and nature, as well as our cosmic family, the connection with the heavens and the stars.
So you have a little bit of that, like with Stonehenge being for that, and the druids from the
pyramids.
Nordic.
Yes.
And so it's kind of ancient spirituality as opposed to a particular religion.
And in working with them, they help us to realize our connection to each other. The fact that it is we're moving into oneness and unity, as opposed to the separateness that we have been conditioned to believe. And so working with them, as well as helping you to move beyond the physical and this mortal life that we're journeying on right now, they help us to make that connection with the heart, the fact that we are all connected, and what we do to one, we do to the other.
Now, when you talk about working with them, what does that mean? Is there a ritual, a process that you go through for working with them, or are you just meditating with them, or exactly what's going on there?
When a skull comes to you, you work with it initially, letting it know in meditation or however you want to do it. Could just be very well as just sitting here talking to it or communing with it like you and I are doing, setting the intention for this particular skull, knowing that it's synchronistic. Usually they give you a name right off the bat. It could be one of your guides that has moved into the skull itself, or it could be a brand new guide or a consciousness that you're not even aware of, as was with all of these except for the one on the end there with Yeshua. But meditating with them, setting the intention on, I wish to have you work with me on my journey. You have to, as with anything, you have to invite it in. You have to be open to what it's bringing into your life.
You're stating your intent, what you want.
Right. Yes.
And that would be the case with anybody who sat down with them, or is this only with you because you're responsible for and keeping them?
No, it's with anyone sitting down with them. They're very powerful tools of transformation, and so my experience has been when people are absolutely ready to embrace their own transformation, they will be drawn to the skulls to accelerate that and amplify and help them move through it with grace and ease, because that's been my intention in working with all the skulls that I have. Is each one of them came to me, and I have probably upwards between 50 and 75 in my personal collection. Each one of them came to me at a time when I was going through a certain phase of my journey, and giving me their name, their message, and then the properties of the stone itself. It's all very synchronistic to exactly what you need in the moment. So they serve the same purpose. I call them my oracle. They serve the same purpose for other people who come and sit with them as they serve for me on my journey.
Now, at the Ervin Hypnosis Center, do you conduct meditations or something with the skulls that people can come and get some feel for it?
Yes, I do. We do include them in well, actually, they're included in all of our sound meditations that we do, but there is one specific meditation called a soul integration that specifically has a grid of crystal skulls out that is to assist in that integrated process that we're all moving through right now. And then I do periodic workshops on them, not just here, but in other areas, teaching about them and how to work with them and allowing people to experience mine and get the feel of them and kind of connect with them and get used to them.
Now, you mentioned the sound meditations, and last week we had Cheryl Yarbrough and Jennifer Ledbetter here. And I have had the opportunity to hear Cheryl work with the bowls. I mean, I'd heard Julie before and others who've used the bowl, but Cheryl used it for almost an hour. It was a meditation at Abigail's, and where she used and it was really pretty astonishing. You use that sort of thing there?
Yes, we do. I have crystal bowls and a gong and chimes and other tools, but mostly the crystal bowls. We have about 13 crystal bowls that we work with, and with the gong and then the solfeggio chimes, and so.
Do you do that during the same time as the meditation?
Yeah.
So you have that too.
Yeah.
How would people, let's say in this area, or even people watching this show from somewhere else in the world, how would they get information about this? How would they talk to Madra?
You can call me at my cell number, which is 901-827-0023. You can email me at motherwind14@gmail.com. Check out my website at www.cranialvisions.com, or our event site, which is www.sacredgathering-heart.com.
Would any of this have anything whatsoever to do with some of the treatments like craniosacral therapy?
Not specifically, but anything that you use the crystal skulls with, and there are a lot of healers in this area that use them in their own private practices of healing, it's going to amplify what you're doing, what your intention is. So if you were to just have one in the presence while you are in your service room, when you're doing a service of that kind, it's going to amplify what's being done.
Now, what is the difference? What's the significance from having a piece of stone the size of 2 fists, and you have all of the elements and the different things that come with it, but you don't have the carving of a skull?
The carving of the skull itself, in the shape of a skull, changes the complete geometric makeup of the stone.
So it changes the vibration.
Absolutely. And what I have learned is the master carvers that carve these stones, they are inspired. The stone actually comes to them and says, I wish to be carved in the shape of a crystal skull. They don't just go out and choose one to be carved. The stone pretty much lets them know. And of course, to get one like this, you have to have something as big as this to carve from. And as they begin carving on them, the skull begins to take on its personality. Thus you see the different expressions in the faces of the skulls. The teeth are different, the eyes are different, the details in the face, just like we are all different. There are no two, even carved by the same carvers, there are no two that look exactly alike. And they're good for, in looking at them from the back as being perfectly rounded, they're good for just meditating and scrying or looking into the back of the skull. The eyes of the skull are said to house our soul. So many people have a difficult time looking into the eyes of a skull because what it's doing is it's mirroring our own soul back to us.
And they're not too happy with what they're seeing.
Absolutely. And so some people are very uncomfortable looking into the eyes of the skull, and it is easier to look into the back of the skull until you get acclimated to that. But they always are there to help us with the transformation once we're ready to embrace that. So it's about removing that fear and just kind of moving forward.
Now, you had opportunity to do some traveling with some of the masters and people who work with. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I will say this, it's always an adventure, and in my journeys with the skulls, I many times get all excited when I'm invited to a specific event, and only to learn once I get there that it's really not about me. It's all about the work that's being done with the skulls, as I've done a lot of work over in Hot Springs in that area, in Virginia, and then my friend who's coming in next week, Sherry Whitfield with the Ancient Skulls Synergy. She lives in Tucson, Arizona, and so I have been fortunate enough to be able to travel with her some and work with her with Synergy, but also in Tucson to connect with the Ancient Skull, the Mitchell Hedges skull, and also the Shauna Ra skull, and through my skull's connection, they're connected also with the Ancient Skull Max. So the energies of the skulls, they're all connected basically, just like we're all connected. They're all connected through a grid. So whether you have an ancient skull or a contemporary skull, the purpose of this tool of enlightenment is still the same. So the journeys with the ancient ones, they're very sacred objects. There's many times people are, they either are just so anxious and excited to be around them, or they're fearful of them because of the energy, the intense energy that they put off. When Synergy is here in Memphis, and she comes to Memphis about once a year, and when Synergy is here in Memphis, over the course of a weekend, the energetic field builds up from this particular skull to out to almost 10 miles, that people can feel it. And they walk into our center, and it's like they're walking into another world. So as it is that with being with any of the ancient skulls, they're so, where these skulls are very energetically intense and powerful, this is just a very small energetic feel of what you get from the ancient skulls.
Now, Synergy comes from Tucson, you said?
Yes, that's where she
Now, is there any connection with the skulls with Sonoma?
Not that I'm aware of specifically. There's several guardians that live in that area, and I'm not specifically in Sedona, but in that area that work with, there's one that's called Einstein, that's from that area. So, but that's just where the guardian happens to live. And they travel all over the planet. All of the guardians with the ancient skulls travel all over the planet, allowing people to experience those skulls, to experience what the skulls have to offer, whatever the transformation, whatever metamorphosis they offer. But they all travel all over the planet sharing. And they're all doing the same work, and yet not once yet have they all come together in one place, which I find very interesting. That is a vision that I've
there's
had.
been no conference or...
Not one
are they considered shaman, or what is their...
Some of them are. Some of them simply work with like Joanne Parks with Max. She simply she's been traveling with Max for about 25 years now, and she simply brings the skull to be viewed, to share her story in a workshop, but she doesn't actually do healing work with the skull. She allows people to come and sit with the skull, and the skull does the work.
What is Max?
Max is another big ancient skull.
So it is one of the ancient
Yes,
ones.
it is. One of the
And
ancient
so she's the guardian. She takes care of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Now Sherry, when she comes in, she actually does shamanic work with it. Next weekend, she'll be doing with Synergy. People come in to view the skull, and the sessions can be anywhere from drums and rattles and chanting and energetic to just very sublime, even just a whole session of laughter.
Now you mentioned some of the functions of the Ervin Hypnosis Center. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of functions that you have there, and you talked about the meditation
Sure.
and other things.
We do new moon, full moon meditations. We do vibrational resonance meditations, and all of our meditations, with the exception of one a month that we have, which is the mastermind meditation, includes sound. Sound is my passion. I am a firm believer in the effects that it has over the healing of our body through our DNA and shifting our vibration and frequency. So we do, just about every week we have a sound meditation of sorts. We do group hypnosis sessions out of there through the week periodically. And then we have different workshops, such as the Ancient Skull coming in. At the end of October, we have a lady coming in to teach about karmic astrology and destiny, the soul's destiny. So we have workshops periodically facilitating anyone that wants to come in and serve through the center to share.
So the sound during these functions, the meditations or whatever that's the program that's going on, the skulls are prominently there, I tell you.
Yes.
And then your singing bowls and so forth. All of that is designed to raise the vibratory level of,
Raise the vibration and anchor it in. Yes.
and how long do those take?
We usually start at 7:30. They usually run about 2 hours, whether it's in the afternoon or the evening. It starts at 7:30, is over by 9:30. Starts at 4, it's over by 6.
So somebody coming to this event, what is their general purpose? What's the objective?
People come to get guidance. They come to heal. We have had spontaneous healing, as vibration and frequency can facilitate that, as well as being amplified by the crystals. They come to de-stress. They come to reboot or recalibrate after a week of intense energy that they feel out of balance or out of sorts or discombobulated. They come to just enjoy the meditation, because it is a guided meditation with an hour sound bath. So it's an internal massage that facilitates well-being and wellness and wholeness. So you get a lot of different things out of it, but people come for different reasons. We have people that come every single meditation because it's a healing meditation for them.
Now Yeshua is your one that is your primary guide. How does that mesh with your possibly your upbringing as a Christian? Is there any connection?
I was very lost as a child, in the sense that what I experienced at home was not unlike a lot of people, a little bit less than what you would call perfect. And so I actually carried myself to church as a child. I walked to the different churches in my neighborhood just to be in that sanctuary, just to have that time in my mind. That was, and it didn't matter what kind of church it was. I would walk there, I would go in, I would be there without my parents, without anybody carrying me.
How old were you then?
I was like 12. And I look back on that now and I think, well, did no one think that was strange? I mean, even my mother and father, you know? And so being in that space brought me balance and peace, and it was all through my life, I've actually walked with Christ as an imaginary friend, so to speak, although he was not an imaginary friend. He was someone that I could sit and talk to, but not in the traditional sense of the way we see or the way we're taught to see Christ. So there was nothing normal about it. You know, there was nothing that I could really talk to anybody about. There was nothing that I could, even my parents at the time, I never talked to them about what I was doing as far as going to church by myself, as far as talking with this imaginary friend. So it was not what you would consider normal.
Now 12, that's the age that Jesus was when he taught in the temple. It's an age of puberty, I guess. So it was a transition point for you.
Yes, definitely.
That was what that was,
yes.
what was going on. And did you ever join any particular church?
I did not.
And did you ever change your religion or move from one?
I did not. My mother and father were considered Southern Baptist when they went to church. That's where they went. But like I said, I never really paid attention to that aspect of it. When I would go to a certain church on Sundays, I would just, like I say, it was wherever I was guided to go that particular Sunday. There were probably about 4 in my neighborhood. And I just took turns going to the different churches. You know, I would go in one and I would sit there through the service, and the next Sunday I would go to another one and sit there through the service. And yeah.
So you're just walking with Christ and walking your own way.
I was.
And how did you come by the skull Yeshua?
It was shortly after I actually met you. About 12 years ago, 13 years ago, about 12 years ago after I met you, I was in the corporate world, in the management and I was in a place of knowing that all of a sudden I did not belong there. My life was about to change, and I had connected with the metaphysical community here in Memphis, and I received something in the mail from someone that was talking about a crystal skull workshop that was going to be going on here in Memphis. And I felt really compelled to be there, although I could not tell you why at the time, because I was like, I'm really not interested in the crystal skulls. And so I signed up for the workshop within just with a 3-day notice. It was a 5-hour workshop. And as I was in the workshop, sitting there looking around thinking, I really don't know anyone here, and I'm feeling rather awkward and uncomfortable, which is the way we learn the most, right? And as I was sitting there, the facilitator of the workshop was Joshua Shapiro, and he was in on the groundwork of research with the skulls and Nick Nocerino back in the late 60s and early 70s.
Did anybody know anything about them much before then?
No, they absolutely didn't. And so, and then what they did know was very negative stuff that had come forward. So, but anyway, he did a slideshow with the ancient skulls that he had worked with, which was Max and the Mitchell Hedges skull and the Shauna Ross skull, and the British Museum skull, and a skull, an amethyst skull by the name of Ami, and the Smithsonian skull. And so he had been on the groundwork of the research with those particular skulls, and he had a slideshow. And so, as we know, pictures carry energy. And so, as I am looking at these pictures of these skulls, and some of the skulls, some of the visions in the skulls, you know, everything from pyramids to Atlantean-looking landscapes to UFOs to extraterrestrials, all of this stuff was coming through in these visions. And about halfway through, I just felt like a house set down on me. I had this aha moment that was like, oh, you have to be kidding me. And I became very emotional as I sat there, and I thought, you know, it's one of those things where my guidance said, just sit here till you get the whole message, you know, because I was really very uncomfortable and wanting to get up and leave at that time. And about that time, Joshua walked over to me and he said, you know, I know you. You know, we've worked together before with the crystal skulls. And I was like, yeah, I'm not sure about that, but okay. So I sat there through the rest of the afternoon. I ended up going and purchasing a very small smoky quartz pendant at that time. I'm like, okay, if this is meant for me, then, you know, because they said size does not matter when it comes to owning one of the crystal skulls, because their potency, their power is there anyway, because they are connected to the grid, to the other skulls, to the ancient skulls. The only reason a larger skull would matter is because it can hold more information, is all. So anyway, I bought the little smoky quartz skull. I carried it home. I'm telling my husband about this as I left there. My guidance saying you're supposed to heal with the crystal skulls, work with them, teach people to move beyond their fears and phobias associated with them, to eradicate all the misconceptions associated with them. And I didn't have a clue what they were talking about. I walked out of there and I'm like, well, you're really going to have to give me guidance here, because I don't have a clue where to start. And so I got home and I talked to my husband about it, and he's like, wow, this is really cool. And I said at the time, really, because I'm having problems with it. I can't seem to get it to that.
That's because Mark is real cool.
He is. He's very open. He is very cool. Absolutely. And so within just a couple of days, very synchronistically, someone sent me an email, and I'm very new to the internet at this time as well. And someone sent me an email, and it had the supplier that actually had Yeshua and the little crystal skull, and it just spoke to me in the picture, you know. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like branch out from this little smoky quartz skull, and I'm gonna go for Yeshua, which was the largest crystal skull that I had at the time. So as he came to me, and I meditated with him, and I took him outside, and I did ritual with him, and that's when I asked for guidance, literally. If these are tools from the divine, because I had asked for tools to help me on my path, physical tools. I'm a physical person, and it just kind of helps to teach others along the way if you've got something that they can kind of touch or that they can interact with. And so the face of Christ came through this particular skull, and he said, you asked for a sign that these were tools from the divine for you to work with on your path. And from that moment on, I never questioned the fact that I was supposed to be working with them. And in doing so, I was immediately invited to start sharing the crystal skulls with people that were, in the metaphysical community here, very new to the community, and yet all of a sudden I was being invited to share them. And the work that was forming itself, or from that, everything else has come in from, in the beginning I wanted to be, before the crystal skulls ever came in, I wanted to, do psychic readings. I wanted to read people's auras. I wanted to do energy work. I was doing all of this stuff in the closet anyway. I wanted to work with animal communication, so all of that came together through the skulls. The skulls came in first. The skulls are activated by sound and light and vibration, of course. And so they brought all of the sound information to me, working with sound healing. And I realized that is my passion, and I realized that it was a very big part of my childhood. I was always into music. I was always into even playing the piano, but yet I didn't want to be taught how to play the piano. I wanted to do it by ear. So very musical and sound-oriented. And so when all of that came in, working with the sound and the light and light energy and color, it just all fell together with the journey of the skulls.
Now, is there somebody out there producing skulls all the time?
Yes. At one point, they were mostly, the contemporary ones were mostly carved in Brazil. Now they are carved all over the world, including here in the United States.
Now, when you take a stone like this, are they carving it with in the typical fashion that you think about with a,
Chisel.
Yeah.
Most of them
chisel
do,
and with
yes, most of them do. They are hand carved, yes. There are smaller ones
They don't
that are
sand
mass
them?
produced.
This-
They use, what do they call, diamond dust to
Mm.
polish them.
And have you been tempted to
Carve a skull?
carve a skull?
I knew that was coming. I have thought about it. There was a time when I was working out of one of the metaphysical stores here in Memphis that as you work with them, you're going to get little chips on them and little rough spots. And of course that hurts your feelings, for something so beautiful to do that. But what they've told me is this, they call me Mom. This is just our personality. This is just like you would get a bruise or a scratch and have a scar. It's the same thing. But I actually have a diamond file that I will file the rough part of it down anyway. And as I was working in this particular metaphysical store, and I'm sitting there and I'm just filing away, I had one of the people come to me and say, "Do you know what a visual that is? Because you look like you would be at home baking cookies. And you look like, and sitting there the way you're doing right now, it looks like you're carving skulls." So, yeah, and I've had people ask me if I carved them, and that's really not something that I ever considered doing. It's,
Well, when you're working with the skulls, are you at that point you're in a meditative state?
yes,
Would you go so far as to say a trance state?
yes, you're definitely in the zone.
You're in the zone. You're in a trance state, and so the conversation that you have with them is this coming to you as a word conversation, or is this coming to you as a symbolic meaning about something? How are you communicating?
It comes in as a knowing. It's like all of a sudden the information is there. You couldn't really put your finger on where you got it. It's not like you actually heard someone say it. I do hear the conversation sometimes, and I do get visuals. But for the most part, it's just a knowing that all of a sudden it comes through, and it's like someone else has imparted that wisdom or knowledge there, and you're not quite sure. You can't put your finger on where it came from, but all of a sudden you know it.
So your general use is a tool or a help in meditation and healing.
And he
Right.
yes.
Do you have any particular stories or illustrations of the healing that you could talk about? Because I know that's a personal thing very much, but
In my service with them in the last several years, Jim, my energy is amplified through the skulls, of course, and so when I'm doing energy work or healing work of any kind, it's one of those things that most people will, if they're ready to see the skulls, they will see them. But if they're not, it's almost like they make themselves vibrationally invisible for those people just to keep them comfortable. But with them amplifying what's being done, again, if the person is ready to really embrace the healing process or the transformation that they're already in the midst of, or they wouldn't be there in my chair to begin with, then they can open so many doors. And I've seen spontaneous healing from cold sores, rashes of the sort, to major aches and pains that are gone after one session. And that, again, that depends on if they're ready to really embrace the process itself. It may take several sessions, but the door has been opened.
Have you had any revelation from your dealings with them that are pretty astounding, or something that kind of knock you back a little bit, or more than others? Situations, have been anything come from any of these in a revelatory type of?
I get information. It's like I was talking to someone earlier today, and in the course of the last several months, I send out a newsletter, and this is an energy update, and basically talks about my journey and what I'm experiencing energetically, because this helps people to understand that, number one, they're not alone. Number two, they're not the only ones going through these intense shifts that we're experiencing right now. So it kind of just gives them a personal take on my journey, what my guides are saying, working with the skulls, and everybody knows me now pretty much in this area, and within a 300-mile radius is the Skull Lady. So, which is perfectly fine with me. But I just lately have been told that what we are experiencing is the renaissance of consciousness. And at the moment that I actually heard that term, I thought, well, that's really cool, because it actually does speak exactly about where we are, the rebirthing of this consciousness. And then several months after that, and this is the way it always happens, then many of the different channelings that I was seeing coming through were coining that same phrase. So it's, again, showing that all the information is coming down the same pipeline and being distributed to the many different people that are open channels to share with those people in their circles of influence right now. In February of this year, I was given the information, as I'm saying always, that I'm really not looking for any more skulls. I have quite a collection, and I can only carry so many around with me anyway. But Sherry and Synergy gifted me with this skull, which when she gifted the skull to me, as I took it into my room that night, and I sat there and I'm like, well, this is really funny. As I'm laughing at it, I'm thinking, I'm not looking for any more skulls, so I'm not quite sure what this would be about. And I get the name Alchemy, and the name was even spelled for me, not your traditional A-L-C-H-E-M-Y, but A-L-Q-U-E-M-I-E. And so it's a very masculine energy, but what he communicated to me was that he was here to assist in the alchemical transformation, utilizing all of the elements at this time, which is very required for everyone.
And being with the rest.
Exactly, exactly. So then I come back to Memphis, and I'm given a new session to start working with. So, there's not any one story. There's so many over the course of the last 12 years that each time something came in that was like exciting for me, and it's like I know to expect those miracles on a daily basis, or the synchronicities on a daily basis now. So I'm not going to say that nothing ever amazes me anymore, because it all amazes me still. But it's all such a revelation when you start working with them, the information that comes in and giving you validation and confirmation as you share them with others, as I share my story with others. As a matter of fact, Taurus's main channeled message is, it's in sharing that we realize our true identities and our abilities.
There are a number of different disciplines, studies, groups, shaman, and a wide variety, too many to mention, who noted that there would be changes with 2012, all right, and that this whole energy grid that we're in would be changing during this period. is that the same message that you're getting from each one of the skulls?
Yes, yes.
And what is that? What is the purpose of that? What's going on?
The shifting with the consciousness?
Yeah.
Moving us back into a place of unity, again, rather than the separateness, realizing that we are just a very small part of this experience, and yet we're all very unique and individual. So we are now moving into the last several months have really been about moving into a place of self-love and assisting or allowing the karmic, the transcendence of the karmic debt or the karmic energy around us. And so it's in healing that energy or in transcending that energy that we will be able to move more into oneness of unity. The consciousness itself, people are waking up left and right. I'm experiencing in my service to others as people come into our meditations and experience the meditations and say all of a sudden, I'm realizing what a sensitive I am and how I can sense other people's energies, and I'm not real sure what to do that. Or they'll say all of a sudden, I'm seeing dead people, or they're communicating with me and I'm not sure what to do with that. So they're being led, as they always have been, but it seems like more in droves now. They're being led to those beacons of light all over the place that can help them to put things together and help them to understand what's happening to them.
Now, I literally want to turn over the last part of the show here for you to deliver whatever message you feel called on to deliver from your work with the skulls and just your general. You want to take a few minutes and do that?
Sure. Being an avid animal lover myself, and one of the major messages that I was taught in the early years of working with the skulls, as I got to work with abused and abandoned animals at an animal sanctuary and cats in general, and I'm very much a cat person. I love all animals, but I'm just very connected to the cats. In working at this particular animal sanctuary, as I walked in there for the first time, because my guidance said you did want to work with animals, and I was elated to be there. And I carried the skulls with me in my camera bag every day. The lady that I worked with did not know that there were skulls in the bag, but yet I carried them in there because I knew that they were supposed to be there and they had a place there. And as I worked with the animals in those early years, I did not understand energy transference. And so I go in and I'm just all about love and holding these animals and loving these animals and not realizing that I'm taking on all their stuff. And long story short, it almost killed me physically. After about 6 months, I could hardly get out of bed, and yet each day I would drag myself out of bed and go to the sanctuary and do it all over again. And as I learned about myself through the working with the crystal skulls, learning how to do that energy transference, understanding what a sensitive I was also guided to understand the animal's part in this awakening consciousness that we're experiencing. We have moved into a period of compassion, and this is much different than having sympathy for someone's situation. Compassion is moving forward in total respect for the other person's journey, or animal's journey even, understanding that this is their chosen journey at this time. And so when we see the abused and abandoned animals, or what's going on a global scale, many of the cataclysmic events that we have experienced over the course of the last couple of years really have been designed to move us more into a place of compassion, being respectful of the other person or the other being's journey and their choices, and knowing that they made that choice to facilitate that shift in energy or consciousness for us in that moment. So working with the skulls, I'm really focused myself on having that compassion. Number one, it helps to remove not all of the sadness, but the feeling of guilt that you should be doing something more. Not that you can't do something more always, but we can't save the world. We can only be who we are in this moment and stand in our truth and our purpose. And by doing that, we are honoring the rest of the planet and the planet herself, as everyone, every being, every energy on this planet is moving through its own journey. And having respect for that as opposed to judging it, as opposed to calling in the emotions of guilt and anger and whatever associated with that, that someone else should be doing something, or playing the blame game, rather than judging, just having respect for everyone's journey. And from that compassion, we are able to, and gratitude, build more upon our return to grace, or our return to our self-love, as the soul's integration that's taking place now is the soul returning to the core, which is the heart, is what my guidance has said. So understanding the process is taking place and really taking responsibility for your own choices, rather than blaming someone else for the way your life is going, taking responsibility for how you move, and realizing there's no right or wrong, there's no black or white, it just is what it is. Removing that judgment is a sense of freedom as we move through our journeys now. So working with infinite love and gratitude, compassion, and forgiveness and peace, working with those and focusing on those, and working with the crystal skulls is excellent. They are excellent tools for amplifying that energy, for bringing it forward in your own life, for helping you to see all your blessings, for helping you to see all of the many ways that you're an honored light being, just to be in this experience right now, and connecting with others that are on this journey as well, and living the experience for what it is, as opposed to complaining about it, or as opposed to putting it down or judging it in any way. It simply is a wonderful life experience, or a dance, and that I refer to now as an adventure. It's all an adventure.
I want to thank Madra for being with us today, and Yeshua.
Yes.
Gaia. Alchemy. Taurus. Sunny.
And Aluna.
Okay, and we appreciate the presence of all.
Thank you very much for
And
having me.
appreciate you being with us and telling us about it, because I'm sure this has not been, certainly we have not had this particular type of presentation on the core concepts, and we're pleased that we do. I want to invite you to go to youtube.com and visit the Renford Broadcast Network. If you're viewing this video somewhere else, go there and take a look at the Core Concepts lecture series. Also, the Bookman Show is there, available for you to look at. The Laws of Material Wealth Personal Development Program, there's the first DVD, that you can get some idea of it. Music with Meaning is a great section, the audio books, and the Renford Theater, where if you've heard about movies like What the Bleep, The Secret, and other metaphysical related films, you can go to the center there, the Renford Theater, and that will link you to virtually anything of that nature that you would like to see. I want to invite you to go to blogtalkradio.com/Renford. That's blog, B-L-O-G-T-A-L-K, Renford, blogtalkradio.com/Renford. And check out the shows. We have better than 10 shows. There's shows every day of the week with a variety of hosts. That's all radio by Renford. And also want to invite you to go to IAM-COR.org and visit the virtual campus of the Institute of Applied Metaphysics. Download some of the free books and the Lightways e-zine. And come again and be with us on Core Concepts.